Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hey, welcome back. I am so excited. We have Joshua Rosensweet, who we're going to bring on the phone here. And let's see here. Joshua, are you with us?
I'm here.
Well, hi. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. We've been trying to get this interview together here for a few weeks, and so I'm finally glad that we finally got it going.
We got snowed out, as I recall.
We did, yes.
There was so much snow on your end.
Yeah, several things, right? And me and technology and trying to do this radio thing. Like, I get to learn how to do technology. This is the beautiful thing about all of it. Yeah. So, hey, for the listeners, I'm going to read your bio in a second. But before we even get into that, I want you to just tell the listeners a little bit about Joshua and what you've got going on in your life, because you're an amazing individual, and I can't wait to share you with everyone.
Okay. Where do we start?
Yeah.
The things I have going on in my life are, one, my family. I have been with my wife for 31 years.
Beautiful.
And
congratulations.
When that moment occurred 31 years ago, it was a life pivotal moment. And then came along two amazing daughters. And then, of course, I'm in partnership with my dad, and he's amazing.
Yeah. I love your dad. I met your dad. He is amazing.
Thank you. He's quite a being. He's a very, very brave soul.
Yeah. So why is he brave?
Do whatever it takes. And so he and I went into partnership together, oh my goodness, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
For many things, but one of them is my just deep love and appreciation of what he was doing in the world and wanted to join him in it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what he does, because it led into what you're doing.
Well, my dad's story starts when he graduated from the University of Michigan Medical School. Mm-hmm. And literally at his own graduation, he got a little lightheaded. And the reason that he got lightheaded is that he realized that as much as he knew, and he loved University of Michigan Medical School, it's a prestigious school, he just loved it his whole way through, he also realized at his own graduation that, oh my goodness, like, I'm really good at patching beings back together. But what about that not getting ill in the first place thing?
Yeah.
And so way before it was trendy, way before anybody was doing, it had a title like holistic or complementary, any of that, he set out to figure out what else he could do.
Yeah.
That led to Debbie. About 22 years ago, my father was in medical practice, and he had a long-standing patient whom he loved deeply, very powerful, very successful woman who'd been seeing him for years. And she came into his office one day, and he told me this story so many times, I feel like I'm telling my story. And she literally pounded her fist on his desk, and she said, "Doctor, I do not want you to belittle this, and I do not want you to treat this as some sort of woman thing. But menopause has hit, and it's wreaking havoc in my life. I can't sleep. I can't think straight. I can't remember things as I used to. And my business life as I knew it is sort of crumbling beneath me, and there seems to be nothing I can do about it."
Right.
And that is a long time ago when hormones were just starting to hit the scene. Mm-hmm. And my dad loved to go and hear lectures from the best doctors out there at the time. And he just learned of this thing called progesterone. And so he prescribed progesterone for her. And about a month later, she came into his office and said, "Doc, you changed my life. Thank you."
Yeah.
And so that started him into what led to what we do. And that's how I came on board. I joined him in helping doctors to get excellent at the treatment, of menopause,
Right. Right.
with compounding bioidentical hormones.
Yeah. So I have so many questions about that, and we're going to get into that. And so you and I met at a leadership program, and you started talking about the menopause method, which was a summit that you had done, and it was interesting because, like, my first thought was, okay, so guys talking about menopause, like, what's that all about, right? First, and then as I got to know you, like, I realized how fascinating you and your dad are, and all the good that you're doing in the world. And so before we get into some of those questions, because I've got questions for you about your wife and what you're doing up to in the world and stuff like that, but I want to read your bio and I want to play a song, because I think it will.
Okay, great.
I think it will get us into and help the listeners really understand kind of where you're coming from. So when I asked you for your bio, this is the bio that you sent me. So you said, my 15-year-old daughter shared this song with me recently, and I started crying immediately. First of all, I love you, Josh, because, like, you're very vulnerable, right? And the stereotypical masculine man isn't, we judge when men are vulnerable. And so I love that you're just out in the world being vulnerable. And we're going to play this song in a second, but the song is called Grow As We Go. And you said to me, because you asked me for a bio, this song speaks to a part of the deeper motivations for what you do. And you said, I feel like my parents' story, the road that they didn't choose, which I want to know more about. And in it, I hear one of the keys to my 31 wonderful years with my wife. So what I love about you and why I wanted you on the show is because you're just this really well-rounded man that is okay with being vulnerable. You're okay with talking about menopause. And, like, when you stand in that, it gives other men almost like permission to stand in it as well, right? And so when Josh went on with his bio, it was so much of what I find makes a man comes down to this simple thing. Do we own our shit first, or do we need to be right? I'm not sure if I can swear on the radio or not, but I just did, so we may have to bleep that out. Can we, in the midst of our own pain, fear, shame, guilt, stress, and feelings of inadequacy, still show up and be present and loving for our wives or husbands, our children, our parents, our village? And so I love that part. And what I love even more about what you did at the leadership program is you came out with the Mighty Good Man thing, right? So the Mighty Good Man is your adventure in self-discovery with a fellow tribe of men with similar intentions. So, kind of moving on with it, it's also the chance for you to share your life experiences with other men, where you learn from their successes and your failures. And you went on to talk about, I look at men and I know and feel that so many of them are 1 or 2 or 3 life choices away from an entirely different trajectory. And so making those new changes matters, and making them sooner rather than later is the best chance of any of us have to create that fun, trusting, loving, growing, sexually connected, and lifelong relationship that can be the core for so much. So let's play this song, and then I've got several questions for you. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, sound good. So this is Grow As We Go. Grow As We Go. Ben Platt is who sings this. So let's listen to this.
You say there's so much you don't know. You need to go and find yourself. You say you'd rather be alone, 'cause you think you won't find it tied to someone else. Who said it's true that the growing only happens on your own? They don't know me and you. I don't think you have to leave if to change is what you need. You can change right next to me. When you're high, I'll take the lows. You can ebb and I can flow, and we'll take it slow and grow as we go. Grow as we go. you won't be the only one. I am unfinished, I've got so much left to learn. I don't know how this river runs, but I'd like the company through every twist and turn. Who said it's true that the growing only happens on your own? They don't know me and you. You don't ever have to leave if to change is what you need. You can change right next to me. When you're high, I'll take the lows. You can ebb and I can flow, and we'll take it slow and grow as we go. Grow as we go. Grow as we go. Grow as we go. I don't know who we'll become. I can't promise, it's not written in the stars, but I believe that when it's done, we're gonna see that it was better that we grew up together. Tell me you don't wanna leave, 'cause if change is what you need, you can change right next to me. When you're high, I'll take the lows. You can ebb and I can flow. We'll take it slow and grow as we go. Grow as we go. Grow as we go. Grow as we go.
Such a beautiful song, Josh. Such a beautiful song. Tell us what that song means to you.
Just right now, hearing it again, even just over the phone where it's not clear, I get a little teary-eyed. It's funny, the more people I played that song for, the more different messages have been heard in it, and even for myself. The first one, the one that always rings true for me, is that my parents loved each other very much, and they were deeply committed to it being the only one. Mm-hmm. And neither of them were half in. Each of them was 100% into relationship. It was every memory I ever had of them was 100% in. Yeah. And yet, they divorced when I was 5. Mm. And no one did any of the big baddies, and it wasn't anything like that. And so it's always been a sort of a mystery to me, because any belief that I might have had prior to that, or I guess the way that I formed because of that, was understanding that beings are nuanced and that choices really matter.
Yes.
And the choices that my parents were making, and bless them, and because of that divorce, they both got committed to their own healing in a way that never changed. Mm-hmm. But what happened was that my father woke up after that divorce and went, "Oh my goodness, it's not the woman of my life." He had in a maybe a genetic hardwiring like myself, a desire for nothing more than success with a woman in his life.
Right.
And here he was divorcing a woman who she could have been the one.
Yeah. And
he got, "Oh my goodness, it's me." He learned in a way that may no one have to learn.
Right.
That the lesson of personal responsibility.
So when he says it was me, that's the personal responsibility.
Yeah, it's a personal responsibility. And then I'll flip that song around and go, why my wife is my lifelong best friend. And she always has been. And what does that mean to have a best friend? And I guess it can be defined in a lot of ways. But for me, it means someone who wants to see how big I can get. And that conversely, I can do that for her.
Right. Versus squelching each other, right?
That's right. And it is an act of bravery to not know my wife.
Yeah.
At one someone that I admire very much said to me recently in a very pivotal moment, Gene said, "Don't think you know this person." And he was referring to anyone that we in that moment, we were there to help. And whatever we think we know of this person, he wanted us to really clearly understand that we didn't know them. And at first it was like, what? This is a being that I know as well as anyone in the world. And then I got it. I got that as soon as we, or I, hold that I know someone, I create a perfect shape, a box for who they are and what they're capable of. And as soon as I understand that, even knowing myself would mean that I don't know what I'm capable of, much less another being.
Yeah, it's
and so that.
Yeah, it's like putting automatic limitations on yourself, right?
That's right. So grow as we go is like we get to, number one, be committed to our own healing. And number two, have just all the room in the world for that being you're with to grow and change, which is takes courage, because who they will change into. And every time my wife grows or changes, it'll perturbate me. It'll shake me up inside.
Yeah.
Because the comfort goes.
Right, exactly.
My goodness. And anyhow.
Yeah.
So some of the reasons I love that song.
Yeah, definitely. So you say that that song in the song you say you also hear one of the keys to being married for 31 years. Did you hit on that before, or is there, what is that? What's the secret sauce?
Well, growth is one of the pieces of the secret sauce. The other piece that is the secret sauce for me is personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And then I guess another one, boy, I can hear a lot in the song because I can hear whatever I hold to be really important. But another one is that relationships are accumulations of moments. And each and every one of those moments, I'm showing up to the degree that I'm capable of showing up for, and that those really matter. And there are pivotal points, about 14 years ago, I was going through some real challenging personal traumas, financial traumas. And I had 2 young girls at home and a beautiful wife. And I can remember leaving the office and driving home, and I had about a 10-minute commute, and I would be greeted by a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter. And I would go, my goodness, what are my choices here? One is to walk into that house with all the energy of my stressful job and my financial fears and all my adult concerns and all my distractions and pain, and bring that into my 6-year-old daughter's life and my 3-year-old daughter's life.
Right.
I can numb it out. I can pretend it doesn't exist, right? Be dad happy boy or some other junk like that. And I remember being 5 and watching adults cover their pain.
Yeah.
And that was worse to me because now my radar was getting jammed.
Yeah.
And then I went, there's got to be a third door, right? There can't be the only 2 options available to me when I walk in that door and see my children. And it didn't, now I'm reconstructing what was an act in progress, right? Life was lived in real time, and I was not a perfect dad. And yet what I really did so well, and I'm so proud of, is that 9 times out of 10, I could walk through that door and get present for them.
Yeah. And, it's such a good...
As soon as I could
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, as soon as I could do that, then I could enter their world and I could be present for their needs. And it was a gift and a blessing for me, because the act of being loving in those moments, rather than needing to be loved or have somebody take care of me because I was stressed, was the best antidote to all of life's trivial issues.
Right.
Nothing mattered in that moment with my daughters and my wife.
Yeah, it's
All
so
that
crazy
stuff, I could
because
let it go.
I think so many people in today's world, like, life is busy, right? It's noisy. There's information. Like, there's just a lot going on. People are busy and we live off of checklists. And so my guess is that a majority of people fly home at the end of the day and they fly into their house without any intention of how they're going in. So I love that you talk about what you're talking about. So, like, if I'm mom or dad and I'm working and I've got kids at home and I've had a terrible day, like, what, before I go into that door, what are the things that I need to be centering myself on?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
the one my grandpa met my grandma. She's now 98. He's passed away, on a double date.
mm-hmm.
This was back when they were teenagers.
Yeah.
And he turned to her. He was on a date with another woman and said, when the other two left the table, "I'm going to marry you."
Aw.
And did. Yeah. And they were lifelong lovers until he passed away.
Yeah.
And why I'm bringing him up is that he was an eye doctor his entire life. And his ritual was that when he left his office and he shut off the lights, he would stick the key in the lock of his office. And as he turned it, he would tell himself, "I'm now done with my workday."
Aw, I love that.
He'd pull the key out, and then there was a conscious act to say, that's work is work, and home life is home life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm done with work.
Yeah.
And
Such a good, it's so good. It's just about being intentional, right? It's about really just taking the time to stop the noise and stop whatever it is and just really get yourself on an intentional path for whatever it is that you're walking into.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the menopause method. Tell us how the menopause method came to be. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but like why is that so important, and what is, like, how are you helping women through this process?
It physically came to be because my father was on the lecture circuit teaching doctors how to treat women in menopause. This was 15 years ago. He'd go off to all the large medical conferences and teach doctors, and they'd usually give him 4 hours, and if he was lucky, they'd give him 8, and occasionally they'd give him 16 hours. And he and I were out for coffee one day 15 years ago, and he was saying that because he had so little time, he basically felt like he aimed a fire hose at him and shot as much knowledge at him as he possibly could and hoped it stuck. And he knew that this was a flawed model for how we could really help doctors get great at this.
Right.
And I was just really getting into video at that time. I was an early adapter of online media, YouTube and such.
Yep.
And that's what my degree was in. And so I said, "Dad, why don't we take what you've done and turn it into a real school where you can devote as much time as it takes to these doctors and medical professionals so that they can get amazing at this." It's no different than anything else in medicine, or probably almost anything in life. You only get great at it if you spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
And it matters that doctors are great at this. Let me rephrase that. In my personal opinion, hormones are great. And even if they're going out the door in less than perfect fashion, they are a gift to humanity, both for men and women.
Okay.
Now, there's great, and then there's greater, and then there's greatest.
Okay.
And yeah, if I'm going to get knee surgery, I want to get it from the person who passionately loves knee surgery and did 5 of them that day, right?
Yep.
And menopause is no different. So that's been our mission for a very long time. And it came from the basic amazing aha moment that my father had, that hormones change lives.
So talk to us about that, because I know that this has to do with the hormone replacement. So how do they change lives? So let's go into that.
Okay. Well, I just want to stop for just a second, because there's probably a huge percentage of the audience that thinks right now, wait a minute. What I've heard is that hormones will increase my risk of breast cancer.
Right.
So I know that's not the question you asked, but it's the one that I feel that's on so many people's minds, including mine, by the way, for a long time.
Got it. Okay.
I went, well, these hormones might be nice, but not for my wife, right? Even though
right.
my father was in the business.
Yep.
And I know I'm not exactly answering your question, but I want to go here first because it's just so critical.
Yes, perfect.
Any conversation that this one gets aired fully. Now, part of it is that studies come out, and we're just collided with conflicting studies, and hormones are no different, right? We should drink more coffee. We should drink less coffee. We should drink wine. We should not drink wine, right? Mm-hmm. What happened with hormones is that in the early 2000s, this study came out called the WHI, the Women's Health Initiative. It was put together by the large pharmaceutical companies for a very legitimate reason. They understood that hormones were beneficial for lots of things, for bones, for muscles, for bladder, for libido, for brains. And they went, my goodness, they wanted to expand their market share. They wanted to expand the reasons that hormones could get prescribed. You know, who knows the motivations? I'm certain they were all over the place. A lot of it probably was money.
Right.
Anyhow, and I'm getting a little technical here, and I hope this is valuable, but I think it's important.
You're good. Keep going.
Okay, great. That study had two arms. One that was studying Premarin, because Premarin was the mega hormone on the market, and it still is. Premarin is derived from pregnant mares, pregnant horses, and it is a form of estrogen that is not exactly identical to what's found in the human body.
Okay.
That was one arm of the study. The other arm of the study also had this other non-bioidentical hormone, meaning not exactly like what's found in the human body, called progestin. I'm saying it clearly because there's an important thing called progesterone, not the same thing.
Got it.
That arm of the study, and only the arm of the study that had both estrogen and progesterone, showed a slight increase in risk of breast cancer.
Okay.
But what happens in America, just to generalize, fear rules the media wave and nothing else. And that study came out and said, oh, breast cancer risk goes up, and nobody could put that genie back in the box because it was so scary.
Yep.
They tried to parse it out. They tried to say, wait a minute. The estrogen form, the Premarin form is fine. It's only the one with the progesterone. But no one could erase what it hit. All of it has been rescinded. That whole study has been debunked, even by the authors of it themselves.
Right.
Have come out and said, wait a minute. But anyhow, what really, anyone who continues to be concerned about this, even beyond what I'm saying here, and that's legit. I mean, we should all do our own research, but should read a book called Estrogen Matters.
Okay.
A very, very well-written book that goes into the scientific literature thoroughly. Pros, cons, ups, downs, all of the research. The punchline is the risk of breast cancer goes down with hormones, not up.
Okay.
If nothing else sticks in this interview other than that little beautiful jewel, Tina,
right. Yeah.
I've helped to change the world.
Yeah, and I don't think people know that. I don't think they get that.
I didn't. And it took me so long, to honestly have it sink into my bones, because I was no different than any other human. I just heard what I heard and couldn't unhear it. Mm-hmm. And I love my wife, I keep saying, and I didn't want to put her at risk. And I had to do the heavy lifting of really reading it to get, oh my goodness, that was just the media spin on something. It wasn't even the study. It wasn't even a study that said it was so.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I want to get to your actual question.
Okay.
What are hormones and why do they matter?
Yes.
And by the way, you might someday want to have my father on, the doctor, because I'll tell people, I'm not a doctor. I play one on TV. I'm joking. I am not a doctor.
Right.
Right. I have been in this world a long time, and yet I will never have a medical degree in this lifetime.
Right.
But anyhow, here's what I also do know. Okay, so basically, every human needs hormones from the day we're born to the day we pass away. And in fact, hormones are important for so many functions in the human body. Brain synapses cannot occur without adequate levels of hormones. Bone production, muscle production, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
They all need hormones. However, our body's ability to produce hormones ourselves, men included, diminishes over time.
Right.
Our bodies would produce them if they could, and so far we haven't quite figured out the aging process. Mm-hmm. and I am a serious proponent of taking care of this body, and there are a million things we can do to help our body do what it wants to do. And yet, no matter what, you measure a man or a woman in his or her 50s, 60s, and 70s, and those hormones are low. They just are, and they just keep getting lower.
Yeah.
And yet our need for them never goes down. They're beautiful.
So,
and they're kind of everything.
So what happens then? So like somebody comes to you, and then what happens when they're able to take the hormones?
Well, let me tell you a couple of personal stories.
Awesome.
My wife, we kind of always knew she was estrogen dominant, meaning she had plenty of estrogen. Mm-hmm. And so we just didn't do anything about it, even though I'm in the business, and we didn't. And then finally she said, you know what, I want to look into this, and she did. And my father started helping her. And about 6 months ago, she looked at me and she said, I wish I had started 8 years sooner. Mm. And for her, everyone's story is different. But for my wife, it was, and this is a little personal, but my wife is an open book, so I feel comfortable sharing it. There was a certain vulnerability that had crept into her. And maybe it would translate as a lack of feeling powerful.
Okay.
And because my wife is a very responsible being, she just kept doing what it took to work on herself, and took it as an opportunity for emotional work, right?
Sure.
Self-development.
Yep.
And then progesterone came along, and when it wasn't just the emotional work, like her life turned around because of it.
Yeah. So like, how did it turn around? What started happening?
Well, lots of health things for her. And then the big one was the noticeable one in her particular case, and everyone is different. I just, the only word that comes to mind for me is empowerment. Mm. A courage and a sense of confidence returned in my wife very, very quickly with hormones. On the other end of the spectrum, age spectrum, my grandmother would not get on hormones, even though her son was a leading expert in them.
Sure. Because
she believed in the breast cancer story.
Yep.
Until she hit her early 90s, and her mind started to slip a little bit. Mm. And my grandma had a PhD, very intelligent woman, very eloquent woman, very outspoken woman, liked her mind a lot, as do I.
Yeah.
And when it started to slip, this is me paraphrasing my grandma, she said, to heck with it. Screw breast cancer.
That's awesome.
I want my mind back.
Right.
Right. We never convinced her that the breast cancer thing wasn't real, but she didn't care at that point.
Yeah.
So she got on them for her mind, and lo and behold, very, very quickly, my grandma came back.
That's amazing.
The grandma I knew.
Yeah.
And even more amazing, or as amazing, she had been on a walker, one of those 4-footed walkers with tennis balls.
Yeah.
And hormones got her off that walker.
That's such an amazing story.
Now she's 98 and it's back, but we got years with my grandma.
Yeah,
because of I attribute very heavily to the benefits that hormones had for her.
That's crazy. That's amazing. So if I'm listening, and I
Yeah.
didn't know anything about hormone replacement, and I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing. Like what are some things that I should and shouldn't do? Because I imagine you said in the beginning, like, not all of this is created equal. So like, where do I go? How do I find you? Like, what should I do? What shouldn't I do?
Okay. I guess my very top tier one would be hormones are a gift no matter where you get them. So and I say that because the big pharmaceutical hormones and the traditional doctors are more frequently covered by insurance. And even Premarin, even the one that I may have sounded like I was bad-mouthing, I'm not.
Okay.
I think they're all a gift.
Yep.
Okay, now I also very much believe that it only gets better from there. And basically, if you boil down what a doctor or a medical professional who prescribes hormones, what they do is prescribe three primary hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and then this other wonderful thing called DHEA.
Okay.
And it's all about the balance of those four, and it's all about not too much and not too little.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now, the science of getting to that and dialing in exactly right for each man, we don't specialize in men, or woman, is the art of best medicine.
Okay.
So if it really comes down to what matters most, it's find the best medical professional you can.
Right.
And there's lots of ways to do it. One of the ways is because we've been training them for a very long time, a woman could go to our website and we've got to find a prescriber, and they'll get connected to someone on our staff. Her name is Sherry, and she will find a medical professional trained by us, trained by Dr. Rosensweet in your state, and connect them. So that's
awesome.
One just practical mechanic of how to do this.
Right. What's your website?
We are www.menopausemethod.com.
Awesome. It's fascinating, right? Like I don't know a lot about this subject, and so I was really excited to talk to you about it and learn more about it. I just turned 50 this year, so like this stuff is on my mind, and so it's just such really great information. I'm going to switch gears on us a little. Oh, go ahead.
Can I give just a couple more things I consider jewels, and then
yes,
we'll move on.
Please, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, we named ourselves the Menopause Method, and if I had to redo it, it would somehow be called this would not be the title, the Perimenopause plus Menopause plus the rest of the life method.
Yeah, that's too long.
Because yeah, I know, I'm just being silly, but what I mean by that is the very best time for a woman to start thinking about hormones can be as early as her 30s,
okay,
mid-30s. And the time to stop thinking about them is never.
Right.
They're just a beautiful gift all the way through. And I wanted to stop there because I believe that the general methodology out there is put off hormones as long as one possibly can until the hot flashes and lost sleep get really bad,
right,
and then get off them as fast as one can.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, hey, think about it the other way. And one more, and then I'm happy to go wherever you want to go. There are tiers to hormones themselves.
Okay.
There's the non-bioidentical tier. That would be Premarin and such. Like I said, still a gift, but let's move up the gift chain. The next level up are these hormones known as bioidentical. I know I sort of already mentioned it. That's just words for identical to what's found in a woman's body, in a human body. Non-patentable, by the way. And then what I hold to be the top tier, and that's us. and here's why. Hormones have to come in a thing, in a carrier.
Okay.
And the fact is there's very little hormone in a jar or a pump bottle or a patch or whatever. It's almost all the other stuff, the inert base. But if your hormones come in a jar that's full of something that looks like a hair gel,
yeah,
in order to keep the hormones evenly distributed within that whole jar, there's only one way to do it, and that's to add a solvent And it's not an easy thing to do. You don't add a soft solvent. You add something like, and this is just one example of what's used, propylene glycol. Again, not the end of the world, but there's another tier up, and that's called non-solvent organic. And that's what we happen to have a patent on.
Right. That
the
in
only
the organic
base in America that is 100% organic and 100% solvent-free. My father invented this, and they gave us the patent on it. And the example I use is like, two avocados, an organic one and a non-organic.
Mm-hmm.
If all you can afford is the non-organic avocado, it's manna from heaven, and bless that avocado. Eat it, enjoy it. It's a gift. If you can afford the organic avocado, it's that much more of a gift. And so that would be the tiers of when you're looking for the best program. The type of hormone matters, bioidentical or not. The base matters, organic or not. And the medical professional prescribing it matters. Those who truly specialize in it and get it down to a science.
That's
okay.
That's
I'm
amazing.
ready for your next question.
Well, no,
I
I'm
hope that was useful.
Yeah, totally useful. I want to congratulations, right? I want to honor you because this is really amazing work in a field and on a subject that people don't there's so much opportunity and so much potential out there for this. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is to explain it out, because there's just a lot of myths and untruths, like you said, out there. And so, I love the detail. That's amazing. What I do want to do is I want to switch gears, because the other thing that I love what you're doing is what you've got going on with the Mighty Good Man Project. So tell us a little bit about the Mighty Good Man Project and what that means to you and what's going on there.
Okay. Well, as you spoke about, you and I met at a leadership training.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest, I had amazing aha, life-changing moments in that thing, Tina, just amazing.
Yeah.
One of them for me was that, as I told you, I met my wife so young, and life felt kind of caustic and rough to me, and men were kind of this rough thing that I never understood, and I never created a deep, close friendship. And I always understood the women in my life better than men, and I was close to my mom. And then this beautiful jewel came into my life, my wife, and I went, this is it. This is where I'm putting all of my energy.
Yeah.
And I've nurtured that jewel. And then 2 daughters came along. And so my energy continued to go towards nurturing these very few female relationships.
Yeah.
And then my dad. And I didn't really grok how much I didn't commit to a larger community until that leadership.
Yeah.
I didn't want it. I didn't think I needed it. And I didn't put my real energy into it. Tell people I was nice. I've always been nice.
Yeah.
And kind, and I went out to the world with kindness in my heart, nice to baristas and men that I would meet, but I would not really open my heart to them.
Yeah.
So half of the Mighty Good Man Project was an opportunity for me to grow and to say relationships with other men matters, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to create a community of men, and men who don't want to talk necessarily just football, men who want to go for it and risk deeply and commit to each other and commit to our own healing, be accountability buddies for one another.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I went, what gifts do I have to give? The other thing I got from leadership is how much of my life was already dedicated to giving from the great degree. But I upped it 100% or 1,000%. Like, what is life about other than being in service for the world?
Right.
So I went, all right, Josh, other than menopause, where can you be beneficial to the world? And I went, well, I certainly know I know some things about relationship and certainly love that.
Yes.
So that's where the Mighty Good Man came from. It was, how can I create that community, and then what can I bring to these gentlemen that I know about sustained long-term love and friendship and trust?
Yeah. And so what did you learn from that project then?
Well, what the first mechanic of that project was to interview the most amazing teachers that I could round up.
Yeah.
Round up is a funny way of putting it.
I love that. No, it's
I
great.
would reach out to and ask, would you do this? And the amazing thing about this world is that it's full of generous people. I would do these big asks for people like Dr. Rick Hansen, someone I've admired for 15 years. And like some people might idolize football players, to go back to that. I kind of idolize that man. Like, this man is amazing.
Yeah. And he said
and
yes.
lo and behold, he said yes. I was like, I did many a happy dance.
Yeah.
So the very first thing I did was interview as many amazing people as I could and ask them whatever. And it was always very similar questions. There was always one that had something to do with, what is it to be a masculine man and not whatever toxic masculinity is? That's just a term for it. But what is the new masculinity? As part of my backstory, I lived in a community in my teen years that was most certainly embracing femininity and angry at all of the toxic masculinity that had gone on, and was in my opinion, also in reaction to that.
Yeah.
And so the men in this community, including myself, were really, really wanting to own our feminine and afraid of and upset by our own masculinity and afraid of the places it goes awry, right? And I think it was part of a pendulum swing, and I bless it all. Like, whatever, we were doing the best we could. And yet, I feel like we threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
In that we couldn't appreciate what is amazing about masculinity, masculine energy in ourselves. Be proud to be men, right?
Right, yes.
So I would ask every one of these amazing teachers, what is the new masculinity? Who are we? How can we do this?
Yeah.
And then I would ask them just open-ended questions like, what do you hold to be the most important thing a man can bring to the man or woman of his life? Right? So that relationships have a chance to, back to that grow as we go thing, succeed.
Right.
And anyhow.
Yeah, and feel like you're not alone, right? Like, that's the whole thing about the community, and kind of what I learned from the leadership program is that we're just so used to being lone wolves. I got this. And when you have a community of people that truly care about each other and that are connected and priority for each other, like, mountains can be moved.
Yeah. And when you stand, like, the one of the ways that I learned, like, I met with my group today. We meet every week, and every time we are kind to one another, but we are not nice to one another. And that's two words that I use as distinctions between niceties, right? Where we all pat each other on the back, or we all pretend to not talk about the things that are uncomfortable or that we see in one another that could use some growth.
Right.
And anyhow, so we're accountability buddies, and we hold each other to a high standard, and beautiful to have a community. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. So, I mean, it's this whole like movement where I love how you talk about the new masculine man, the new masculinity. What did you find as like a common theme throughout the people that you interviewed, as far as like when you think about old masculinity versus new masculinity? Both old masculinity and new masculinity have bravery as one of their core elements. The old expression of bravery could be selfish acts, acts that were represented through our ability to conquer or be more powerful than another. It's like that caveman
translation of bravery. Yeah. Right. The warrior, right? The physical warrior, and or the dominant warrior.
Right.
And the new bravery is it has a very high element of self-responsibility in it.
Yeah.
So like almost every single one of these experts would have some form of this, some form of, okay, some story like this. So you come home from work, or your wife comes home from work, and you've had a hard day. And you walk in, and she's had a hard day. And you know it because she's being less than perfect. Right?
Yeah.
And And this flip this around. You could just as easily say he's being less than perfect. This is not trying to say any. I'm just trying to say that's what's happening, right? Yep. We're humans, and we show up in our human imperfections.
Yes.
And so we've had a hard day, gosh darn it, and the last thing we want is this person being less than perfect with us.
Yeah.
And what is the key in that moment? Ownership of one's own being and choices.
Yes, powerful.
And not needing for that person to understand your needs or to hear or own their stuff. Because we can get into this thing where we go, and boy, was this my parents' thing. They needed to be heard. My mom needed to be heard by my father. And my father needed to be heard by my mother. And so what did they do? They yelled louder and louder and louder. And they felt less and less heard.
Yeah.
And responsibility and true bravery is walking in that door, and maybe your spouse is less than perfect, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of having to prove that she's doing this and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, here's me. You're right.
Yeah. How can I support you, right?
How can I support you?
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's not martyrdom, and that's not I get to go to heaven because I'm a good guy. It's because that amount of ownership and responsibility is, number one, I think personally, a empowering thing. It's the opposite of martyrdom, which feels belittling.
Yeah.
It's very powerful for me to stand in my own strength and just own my part of something. I sort of hold this as tiers. Tier one is you hear me, right? Mm-hmm. I better be heard.
Yeah.
Tier two is, okay, I'll apologize if you will too. Mm-hmm. And tier three, and I'm just making these tiers up as I go here.
I
tier
love
three
it.
is just apology. It's just apology,
yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter that she gets her thing. Choose a being in your life that also honors this code, but don't expect it of him or her. Just own your own.
Right.
You're
yeah.
right.
It's empathy and everything else that goes with that. It's so important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. So that was the key that seemed to string that ran through almost every one of those beautiful people.
Yeah, it's the self-responsibility thing. And again, it doesn't matter feminine, masculine, whatever it is. We're all human. We all have good days. We all have bad days. And it's just about like having a deep connection with somebody and putting their needs ahead of yours. Like, right? It's not about us. It's about giving in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And the other one was that what is masculinity? Masculinity is just a force.
Yeah.
That is embodied by all humans to some degree.
Yeah.
And some lesser and some more, just because of who they are and how they choose to express themselves. It's just a force, and it deserves to be honored, and it requires responsible ownership of it because it's a powerful force, just like sexuality is a powerful force.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Sexuality is neither good nor bad. The expression of it sure can be amazing or not.
Or not, yeah. Right? Exactly.
And masculinity is the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when it's a tool used well, it's a beautiful thing, or not.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with femininity, right? Like so.
Yeah.
Like I just want to make sure the listeners know that this isn't about this is about us being humans. We're humans, and we all have masculine and feminine traits in us, and it's how we express them. Yeah. So I love how you word that. My goodness, Josh.
And I'm glad for that clarification. You're so right.
Yeah. So we are like at time. We're over time, which is amazing. I've loved love this conversation. So where can people find you?
They can find me at menopausemethod.com.
Awesome.
And they can find me at themightygoodmanproject.com.
Amazing.
Those are the two places that on the internet verse I live in.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn and all the other channels too. But those are the two primaries.
Got it. So I'm going to read one more paragraph that you wrote me that like almost made me cry. So when Josh was sending me his bio, this was the last paragraph in his bio. On my deathbed, I will care about how on a moment-by-moment, hour-by-hour, day-by-day basis I showed up for my wife. In those last days, if those last days are about reflecting through memories of the life I've lived, My poignant reflections will have everything to do with the verb of love. All the moments I was present and connected, sharing and caring, fun-filled, courageous, humorous, and how capable I was to see the beautiful people in my life. This matters to me. Gets me all choked up right now. So what I want to say, Josh, is thank you, right? Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your heart and for being the man that you are. You have the most biggest, ginormous heart that I know of. Thank you for being such a stand for not only women in menopause, but men with the Mighty Good Man Project. I think both of those things that you've got going on are just putting so much good out into the world. Your courage and your kindness, how you're vulnerable, all of it. I just want to acknowledge you for it because it's extremely inspiring, and we need way many more humans on this planet like you. So thank you so much for being on the show.
So it's such my pleasure. I've really enjoyed this hour, and it just flew by for me too, however long it was.
Yeah, 50 minutes. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's awesome. So, all right, have a good rest of the day, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Tina.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye now.
My name is Tina Paulus Kraus, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com and